Welcome back, friends. So for a while now, I've been wanting to update on our little music. I know I don't post regularly, and I'm sure that sucks for people that like to see stuff. And then also when things don't really go the most perfect way, it's the last thing you want to display out there. And anyway, we've had some little hardship with old music here, and then some kind of sad story waiting on the other mare to foal. And I guess the cat's out of the bag on that one. She never really was in foal. She was checked by 3 different vets 4 different times, and I don't know how the heck that was missed, but anyway, it is what it is, and it wasn't meant to be, obviously. So just music here is the only little one we have, and I guess that's just fine. Everything works out the way it's supposed to. I was a little sad, but I'm not sad that I didn't risk my mare. And also, back to the original story as to why I put this little video of music in all his glory together. We were all consumed with little Mister here and what wound up happening to him. So it would have been quite overwhelming to have had another one born at the same time anyway. So I don't know how many of you all have watched Jeremy's previous videos about how he likes to raise a foal. And I mean, you saw me touch his ear just a second ago, and how Jeremy mentioned he likes very minimal handling on them when they're young like this. He wants to let mama do the raising, and too quickly they can get into trouble with bad habits if we let them get away with naughty behaviors. Tough part is I was in there all the time up in Poco's business, as you saw me just brushing her, checking her bags, and eagerly awaiting the possibility of a second colt coming. And at this point, when I was videoing these little clips, we still thought she was in foal. Anyway, you can see here how little Mister started getting himself into a little bit of trouble, and here in a second I'll tell you what happened, but we aren't sure exactly how it happened. As you can see, my other mare that we thought was in foal is over at the feeder just eating. She's not bothering anybody, and they all coexisted just fine. But that's his mama running there with him, and which is fine. He's running and playing and having fun, but he started getting a little big for his britches, and we don't know if he fell or if mama kicked him or the other mare might have kicked him or what he did, but we came down and found him like this one morning, and as you can still see, he thinks he needs to run and play still. It didn't slow him down much, but anyway, he wound up breaking his elbow. We tried for several days to get the local vet out, but we're pretty far up in the hills and not a ton of vets in our area. So we wound up hauling him to Alamo Pintada over in near Somas. And we left him and his mama overnight. And they thought initially they mentioned possibly surgery to fix that break in the elbow. And the next morning we got a call back from them. They had the whole team look at the radiographs and check mama and baby, and of course he was always in good spirits and still thought that he should run around and play. But obviously the picture showed there was something wrong. Now I have to mention, this was the first time we'd ever even put a halter on him, when we put him in the trailer and took him down to Somas. And he was dang good. I mean, of course, Jeremy handling him, helped. And mama was a rock star, and she was really good as gold. And so that helped him to be a good, quiet boy. Anyway, they sent him home with us the next day. They called us to come get him again, and they said they thought keeping him splinted and the leg immobile, as far as the knee basically immobilized, and the leg in the same position, so that the elbow could fuse back together, was the best course of action. Here I'm showing Poco's bags because we still thought she was in foal at that time. Anyway, and told us to keep him confined, keep him splinted. The original plan was 6 weeks. And so we were spreading hay to make sure the ground was soft, because he was going to be laying down a bunch, and you can see it never really did slow him down too much. And he was able to get up and down from laying down and such just fine. So that was really great. Youth helps a lot of things. And so we were to change the bandage every couple of days. So that sure gave him a crash course in handling, and we had no other choice, obviously, when he got hurt. But the beauty in us being able to make the decision to raise our colts how we like to raise them also means that we have the ability and the know-how to be able to handle them should they get hurt, and we hadn't already done the work on them. So that's the difference in, some people can do the way we like to do it, and some people need to handle them sooner so that they're not in a bind if they need to. Anyway, there was a clip of his feet, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I'm not sure if I'll have time. Jeremy made him a little shoe so that he wouldn't wind up wearing that toe down bad, and that really was helpful. The hospital liked that a lot. This looks all like serene and beautiful, but actually what happened is we were trying to change his bandage, and I think it was maybe the second bandage change, and he'd thrown a fit, throw himself on the ground. So we held him down and then just changed his bandage that way. I mean, we were bound and determined it was going to get done one way or the other. So anyway, all the subsequent changes after that went pretty well. I mean, we were fair about it. We weren't mean to him, but he needed that bandage changed, and I was bound and determined that he wouldn't get any pressure sores from the bandage. He wound up getting one, but that was because he wound up keeping it on longer. This was a picture of that shoe he made him. I'm not sure if it'll show up, but so the original plan was 6 weeks in the splint, and then we would do radiographs and see how it looked at that point. And they really thought that at that point he'd be out of the splint and good to go. But we had gone 9 days before the vet in Alamo had seen him. So if we'd have caught it in right away and put him in the splint right away, it might have been 6 weeks. I don't know. But ultimately what wound up happening is we went 6 weeks, we checked the x-rays, and they wanted to go another 30 days in the splint. So that's what we did. And we took to hand walking him every time we would do a bandage change, because I was really worried about the muscles atrophying, and you can see his leg almost look like it hyperextends the other direction in one of the videos. So we thought it's best to hand walk and hopefully to start to develop those muscles back in a controlled manner when we had a hold of him. He was still confined in his small area, but we would hand walk him out in the little bit larger area, and he was just a doggone rocket waiting to go off, as you can imagine, the poor guy. But he contained himself well, and he was careful with that leg. He didn't slam down on it, so that was really, really good. We were thankful for that. But you could see he just wanted to be turned loose to be a baby. So I think this was probably a couple of days before his final visit to Alamo, and I'm pretty certain it was his last bandage change that we did. And we wanted to get Mama's feet trimmed before we took her down to Alamo so she looked respectable. And poor old Jeremy, I was the holder and he was the bandager, and so I started getting a little cantankerous on him. But the colt was bored out of his mind too, and it was all he could do to contain himself and behave. And poor Jeremy didn't want him getting mouthy, and sure enough, he got a tiny bit mouthy. But it wasn't bad. He was frustrated because he couldn't. He was bound up and held still, and as you can imagine, a poor little guy wanted to run and play and be a baby, but he was really good for everything. This was probably 2 or 3 days before our last visit to Alamo when we got the all clear to take the splint off, and the radiographs looked good, and they said everything had healed the way they had hoped, and we were so thrilled because we wound up taking that splint off the day before. Actually, we held him down there. You can see right here he has the bandage on, but he doesn't have the splint. It started getting to where we couldn't keep it in a good position. He was just too big and it was slipped down. And anyway, so soon I'll show you videos of how he's looking now.